That's called I hit something here that stopped, like a skateboard with a rock.
Really?
God, I hated
me.
that.
That's not good.
But you never skateboarded.
I was a skater. What are you talking about?
You know, his
No
skateboarding
way.
was,
I was
the kids
such a
were
skater.
skateboarding, and he was like, "Hey guys, that looks cool." Can
one of the guys just
take
hangs
part?
around.
I'm pretty confident. Like Gerald went home and was like, "Mom and Dad, I need one." And then they got him one of the scooters, which is just the skateboard body, but with the handle on it.
Right.
And he showed up.
Wait,
and he
why
was
do you
like,
feel
I
like
have
you need to
one.
describe to us what a scooter is?
Yeah.
You really for the United
It's like a
States of
skateboard
America.
thing, you know?
What is this?
I'm from China. Shut up.
I feel like he forgets when he turns it on. Like, oh, a scooter with a handle. Idiot. I don't know.
better,
You know.
I have to
kind of
remind
scooting
myself I'm an American.
I was a skater for 4 years,
Which,
by the way. 4 years.
yeah, right.
I was.
What?
Okay.
Skater.
Name me a trick.
Ollie. Kickflip.
Okay, he just named the basic. He named the
I did.
pumpkin
Come on.
spice
Okay.
latte
Fine.
of tricks.
McTwist.
played
How about
Tony
that?
Hawk Pro
There you go.
No good.
And then when they moved to the Razor
Nothing for the
scooters,
McTwist?
Remember, like, that was just a less efficient scooter.
Yes.
It's like,
It really
let's
was, yeah.
take a scooter, which, you know, has
Which is
sort of like
awesome.
smaller bike wheels, and give it the wheels of a rollerblade.
Yeah.
Just so you feel
You have to
every
push and then
single
you
Yeah,
stop.
but
bump.
then you can do those flip things where they flip and hit you in the shin.
Yeah, I was
Oh,
pretty good at it.
that's
Actually, in
fun.
Canada, little known, they were very, very expensive. We could not get Razor scooters for the first year.
That sucks.
Yeah.
So I went to Plattsburgh. That's how you know your country is a horrible place to live. When you go to Plattsburgh, New York, to buy the cool.
Wow. Was it like
downtown
tariffs?
Main
Was that
Street.
it? Were we in a trade war with Canada?
No, it was just they just didn't have them. Like Nintendo 64 games. How much? By the way, hold on a second. Half Asian lawyer Bill Richmond,
Yeah.
quarter
Hey.
black Garrett, audio Wade, Gerald Morgan,
Skater.
Gerald Morgan A. What were we saying? The tariffs? No. How much was a Nintendo 64 game in the United
I
States?
believe they were like 35 to 40.
Okay, they were like $69 in Canada. People out there from Canada,
Terrible.
Tell the folks below. Remember when GoldenEye came out? When it was new, I remember I
Right,
got
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for Christmas it was like it was $69.95.
Wow.
And I remember because one
Jeez.
year I got Glover because they had this whole ad campaign for Glover.
Glover?
It was horrible.
Right. I did the same thing.
It was
I was like, I gotta get
terrible.
that game, and it's
What's
bad,
Glover?
so
It was
bad.
it was a video game
Donald?
that was just awful. That's a Gerald. You should be
I
ashamed.
know,
You should
you like
put
that?
yourself in his corner.
Yeah, baby.
Gerald gave me some bad wine. Okay, no, seriously,
Mr.
what's
Gambino
Glover?
deserves better. It was just a video game. It was similar like Mario 64, but you would have to collect the. It was a glove, and you would bounce a ball.
Bounce a
with the
ball.
glove.
That's so terrible.
It
I
was
remember
so
like
bad.
a marble or
Yeah.
basketball.
But it was so
or-
expensive, and we had so
So
little
difficult.
money when I was a kid that I knew like that's the video game I'm going to get for the year.
Yeah. And you're
I
done.
want to
That's
kill myself with it. And then I have to. And we didn't have Google, so I couldn't. Well, I would have to ask Jeeves how to kill myself with an N64 game, and he was no help.
No. It's a 5-step process. Who's got time for that?
I ended up switching to web crawler. All right. By the way, it is Mug Club Quarantine. Hashtag Mug Club Quarantine is the month. That's why we're giving you all of this content in front of the paywall for free. Enter in the
Oh.
promo code Quarantine. You get $30 off. That's our biggest discount since the Vox Apocalypse. And if you are up for renewal, please do consider renewing. We really do appreciate it. And Canadians, set the Americans straight below and
We've
let
got
them
it better
know.
than we know, right?
strike.
Yeah. And you know what else was crazy too? We used to go to the Plattsburgh. It was called Champlain Mall, but in Plattsburgh. We never had samples when I grew up in Montreal.
Really?
So I remember I went through the first time I ever experienced. I got like, "Hey, want a teriyaki?" I'm like, "Yeah." What?
Just stand there.
Free? We couldn't even return things. Zellers was our Walmart.
Nice.
I got a pinball machine. Sorry, I just didn't mean to start this way, but I'm very upset.
Take it away.
Zellers was our Walmart
Let it out.
equivalent. It was
Okay,
called
yeah.
Zellers. It had the Canadians, please sound off so you remember this. It had the Zellers bear. And I used to have the nightmares about this bear. It was very creepy looking. It was like a Teddy Ruxpin on meth.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And
Toothless.
they had a return policy that wasn't. There was no return policy at all.
Oh.
And so my parents got me one of those hand, table ping pong, not ping pong, pinball machines.
Okay, yeah.
And it didn't work.
They never do.
It didn't work at all. And so
As
we
they
returned it. My parents had the receipt.
Yeah.
So they could clearly see it was broken, and they charged us a 10% restocking fee. Right there, my parents we don't want it. This is wrong. All right, it's Christmas. Our kid wants his toy.
Yeah.
Okay. They exchange it. My dad says, I'm going to check this right here in front of you. With the new one, it too did not work. 20%.
No.
Because they
What?
charged us another restocking fee right there at Zellers. And so when Walmart came in and closed them down, I thank the
glorious.
Lord above for the United States of America.
Saving
day.
the day.
Lord, baby
Kansas.
Jesus, Sam Walton, thank you for your
Absolutely.
return policy.
And for those of you who are not Mug Club members, you know what we're going to do this is clearly have other things talking about. We're going to read your chat, but this is something that we do. There are a lot of shows that we do, and a lot of jokes that don't quite make air
Mostly me.
on Thursday, or what you see on YouTube, or sometimes they don't even make air behind the paywall for Mug Club at all. And they just find their way. And I should be clear: some of them are because they're way too offensive.
True.
And many of them
He
are just
looked at
because
me.
they're not
in case
very
everyone-
good.
He looked at me when he said
did
they're
look at
You
you,
know why?
Bill.
Because, because Bill
confirmation.
plays both sides of the
He
fence.
does.
When
He
I
really
said,
does.
let's do Mug Club Quarantine,
Yeah.
and here's the logo, but a little surgical mask. Right, I never know if Bill's going to be like, hey, hold on, that could be offensive. I said, there's a little surgical mask and a rice patty hat. And Bill, I'm waiting for him. He goes, you should put a zipper on that thing, make it a zipper head. I'm like, what? I cannot believe.
Yeah.
You don't know where he's going to come
You
from.
don't know. Yeah.
You don't know. I'm
Sometimes
a
he's got
whack
your
job.
best interests in mind, and other times not.
Can I ask? I know you already asked people to put things down below in the comments, but
Yeah.
can I hijack that as well?
Sure.
If anyone wants to help me on the legal side here, are any of these jokes ones that should not even have made it into Scrapyard?
Yeah.
I need help.
That's a good point.
So
Right.
we can keep this stuff out.
Let us know
And off the air. Thank
which
you.
of the following bits and or jokes or tidbits, anecdotes, if you will, should never have seen the light of day at all.
yeah.
You can't answer all of them. All of the above is
Don't be
not
a
an
jerk.
option.
Nope,
not
So
enough.
welcome many of you for the first time to Scrapyard. I have actually never take that fade off there, Quarter Blackyard. I have
That's an
never
intro. I put
seen
that in the intro every time.
that intro with the Muhammad picture and the goat.
You had it?
That's new.
on the-
It's new.
That is
No,
new.
That's in there.
No.
You just snuck that in there.
That's every
in there.
time.
He snuck that in there
Just
because
like
he wants,
like he did with the goat.
he
Snuck
wants
it in.
I think your fatwa had
he
expired.
wants this shut down. He
So-
already has his application accepted to the Young Turks.
He'll fit in.
Hey, hey.
Ouch. No, you won't.
Hope you like nose
won't.
jobs. So, keep in mind some of these obviously may not seem topical anymore because some of them are very old. But a couple of
okay.
weeks ago, Madonna made a video from her bathtub telling us that we should all be a little more like the coronavirus.
That's the thing about COVID-19. It doesn't care about how rich you are, how famous
Does it care about the
you
fact that
are.
even though you're a woman, those look
It's
like
the
man
great
tits?
equalizer. And what's terrible about it is what's great about it.
Astute, and now very much like the coronavirus, I also want to kill me.
That was horrible and haunting and
horrifying.
awful and
She's just the. I am appreciative that she ditched her English accent,
That's
though.
true.
Being
Yeah,
that
very,
she's
very
from
nice.
Saginaw,
Yeah.
Michigan.
Yeah.
We all know that people speak like Queen Elizabeth from Saginaw, Michigan.
Saginaw.
I feel like
UK.
there was a 50-50 shot. Like the police would have found her dead in the tub after filming
Yeah,
this.
that was definitely it.
like
Yeah.
That's
Definitely
just.
filming.
It sounded like her final confession.
Well, one can hope. So while his, by the way, I know her. I've spent some time with her parents. They run a lovely winery, and I believe are very ashamed of their daughter. While this,
As they should be.
while his trial was going on, see, originally this was written, "Hey, this is in the news," but it's not in the news anymore.
no,
not even close.
Yeah, sorry.
While his trial was going on at some point, Harvey Weinstein, there it is, said he once read a 546-page book about Winston Churchill in one day.
One?
His lawyers are calling it the smart rapist defense.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to see that one. You will see that in the comments section.
Yeah. When you have to compliment a joke, is it really good?
Yeah, that was good. Your jokes complimented a lot.
I do.
Yeah.
I do a lot.
Gerald delivers the punchline, and the reaction is, "That's so good for you."
Steven, you must have written this one, didn't you?
And now my confidence is shot. But a man was hospitalized. This one's an evergreen, so it doesn't matter. A man was hospitalized when a woman bit his neck after he peed on her yoga mat. This comes from the Baltimore Sun. Charges have been pressed by the man who told police that he was intoxicated and did not know what room he was in. I don't see what the big deal is, said Judge R. Kelly. Now, it should be noted, or this was the alternative, right?
Yeah.
Punchline was it should be
Yes.
noted that this was from the latest episode of Celebrity Judge R. Kelly. There you go.
okay.
There you go.
Yeah,
and, you can see,
that's-
and here's the issue is because
Yeah.
often we write like 3, 4, 5 jokes,
Right.
and you see the ones that make air. So that's the A material. And then sometimes you write many jokes and just none of them are even passable.
Yeah.
So you
None
do
of them,
7 or 8 of them.
None of them could even pass as passable.
No.
right. I tend to just get an email that says, we'll consider this for Scrapyard. It's not even automatic. In there.
Who gave you the email of anyone involved with production?
You mean that's not real?
You're not supposed to have
No,
that.
it's a fake
It's an
one.
auto response.
I get so
It's a
many
fake one.
emails.
Whenever he says, hey, I have an
Really?
idea, I send him through the Louder with Crowder contact form. And then he tries to book me for a gig in Schenectady.
Really weird.
Hey, do you think Gerald's going to find out that we've just been feeding his jokes to the Young Turks? That's why
Yeah.
this shit's so terrible.
They keep copying me. It's so weird.
But they seem happy with it. Back when the coronavirus thing, the coronavirus, this, you've heard of it. It was just getting big. Actress, I don't like this one. Actress Hilary Duff criticized, quote, millennial assholes who were still partying instead of self-quarantining. That's right. If they don't listen to every doctor on the planet, maybe they'll listen to Lizzie McGuire. Step aside, Fauci. I don't know if you can tell, I don't even believe in this.
That was a good one. You didn't sell it as your own.
Hey, you need to make a couple of these and just do an episode for me and Gerald because we like all these jokes.
We do. We're sitting over here laughing. We need to do a reveal, though. We need to rat out who wrote them.
I think that one was audio wave.
Was it Wade?
That was me.
I meant in the future, not
By the way,
immediately
if
on
you
the
want to
spot.
know, did Audio Wade contribute to that show map? 9 times out of 10, it's a joke that includes the words hot, hairy ass.
Yeah, that's the detail right there.
Yeah.
Really?
9 times out of 10.
9 times out of 10.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
I asked him today, I'm like, your dad watches the show. Does he know that you write the hot, hairy asshole through line? And you said, no, not at all.
No.
Not at all.
Hi, Dad.
Does now.
Now he does.
Hi,
Yep.
Dad.
Didn't know.
Do you remember that one time we had the joke? Who was it who said this is their daughter coming out?
Yeah, it was Elizabeth Smart who was,
That's right.
I believe,
yeah.
kidnapped and sexually abused for several years. And
Right.
it was a story about her dad coming out as gay.
And that's right.
Yeah.
And she was talking about how difficult that was.
Yeah.
So this is a true story. We have, so we don't really have a live studio audience, but we have, I don't know if can we even show with that camera? We have about 8 seats there where either producers sit or sometimes family members of the crew. And so the joke there was
Right.
Elizabeth Smart, I think, saying it was, my dad's gay. This is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. And we had a lesbian in the studio.
Yeah, at the time.
And she
did?
was roaring with
She loved it,
laughter.
yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
She loved it.
Which didn't surprise me because she's gay. It surprised me because most lesbians have no senses of humor. And she was the exception to the rule.
There you go.
Gays are fun. Lesbians usually not.
You know what's funny is if anyone comments and they're like, I didn't think it was funny, then they're proving the rule.
Yeah, exactly. That is exactly the rule
Absolutely.
because they're
Caught you.
undoubtedly a carpet muncher. Remember the gun protests in Virginia?
Blocked it out.
Yeah, well, eventually, Governor Ralph Northam's assault weapons ban that he was pushing, remember after that failed. When he heard the news, Governor Northam was so sad, he lynched himself.
Wow.
Is that even possible?
That's a net
Because
positive.
he was racist, right, with
Right.
the black face.
Yeah, I got that.
Yeah, he didn't know if he was...
He didn't know.
He was in the.
Let me try that one again. When he heard the news, Governor Northam was so sad, he burned a cross on his own lawn.
That's,
I think that worked.
It's not bad.
more
None of them work.
plausible.
I think that's the winner in the comments.
This is the Scrapyard, people.
The good and the bad and the ugly. Here you go.
You know what? It just shows you never know what's going to work because I thought that lynched himself was funnier than
lynched
Lizzie
himself.
McGuire.
I thought it was too. I vote for that at least.
Oh, good.
I vote Lizzie McGuire.
What did Hillary Duff? I was about to say, who's the other Duff? There's the other one, Haley Duff. I was about
Duff.
to.
Oh,
How
yeah.
sad is that I almost mixed up the Duffs
Yeah.
in my head? I have such a repertoire
Yeah, what
of the Duffs. I
Duff
shouldn't have this
beer man.
information. Can we get rid of that for CDC statistics or something?
Right, yeah.
Can
Something
I fit
important.
something useful?
important in
And I know that one of the Duffs. This is. Every one of you should just kick my ass. This should be like an Acme cartoon where it's just a pile of dust and then it's a bloody corpse. I know that Haley Duff was on Seventh Heaven.
What?
Okay.
I don't know why. Hillary Duff's sister.
She was the one that did the stanky leg after she was lip syncing on SNL.
The fact that you know that is
No, that's not. That's Ashley Simpson.
Ashley Simpson.
Tisdale.
Is
Yeah.
that Ashley Simpson?
Ashley
Simpson?
Simpson, yeah.
How
But I
in the hell
appreciate
did
you
we run
injecting
into-
a little bit
Yeah.
of racial
Hey,
diversity
at
by
least I can't
saying
remember.
stanky leg.
Is this like a Teen Vogue show now? What the hell's going on here?
No, it's just a bad show.
The stinky leg dance.
The stanky leg.
Stanky
dance.
leg.
Stanky
That's
leg.
him
Thank you.
trying to be coy about the fact that he has all of Ashley Simpson's albums, but
What?
but I'm still black. Stanky leg.
Yeah.
Ashley Simpson ain't got no stanky leg.
No.
You got a stanky leg? I like myself some turkey leg. I'm not accepted among any of my peers.
Can we high five here?
White nor black. Quarter black, you have no home.
I know.
You do.
That's why you need me.
Too bad.
We love you.
You need me so that I don't thrust you out into the cold world that we know. So this happened back in February. Michaela Spielberg, not Michaela Peterson, by the way.
Right.
One of them, daughter to the most prolific director, producer of all time.
Mm-hmm.
The other one loves ribeye.
Loves a ribeye.
Loves ribeye. Vitamin C.
Nothing wrong with that.
Fake news. So Michaela Spielberg, daughter of, no, actually, and of course I love Jordan Peterson, and
Yes.
his daughter will actually probably be on the show. It's just the carnivore diet, you know. I just wasn't good for my stool. Michaela Spielberg, daughter of Steven Spielberg, she announced that she is attempting to become a sex worker. You know, maybe this could have been avoided if her father spent a little more time raising his kids, a little less time executive producing Cats. Which is not so much a joke as it is trying to highlight the monstrosity that is Cats.
Yeah.
Yes.
Observation.
See, but
That's
this is
really
one of those
More of a
things where like
nightmare.
the joke is too on the nose, right?
Yeah.
Like literally everyone regrets his time with cats.
It's two on the whiskers.
No.
Who's got the
I
bad
want
jokes?
to hurt me.
You should. By the way, I thought like if you were becoming like the bar's pretty low to be a sex worker. She's
not hard at
trying
all.
to
It ain't.
become.
You gotta-
Like, is
there's
she failing at
all
this?
this paperwork.
Yeah.
Really?
You have to, like,
Is
try
there a
out.
union?
Yeah.
I
don't think so.
I have no idea. What do you
Hemp
do?
union.
Is it do you 1099 that?
Yeah, you're probably a contractor.
Yeah.
You choose your own
Independent.
hours. Bring your own equipment. Yeah.
Uncle Sam, he's always waiting for his cut of the pie. Am I right?
The biggest pimp of them all.
Am I right? So disgusting. You should be able to do
Quarter
what you
black,
want
you know.
with that, and Uncle Sam ain't got nothing to do with it.
No, I don't.
Uncle Sam wants you. Yeah, I heard that before. Stanky leg, right? That's what it should be.
This is a terrible show.
I like how
Louder
audio
with
went.
Crowder Mug Club Quarantine Month at the Apollo. That's just Quarter Black going, Stanky leg!
Stanky leg. Yeah.
All right. According to doctors, by the way, putting potatoes up your butt won't
Hey.
cure hemorrhoids.
Oh, it won't?
But
Dang it.
really, if you
What have been
needed,
walking around all the day?
if you needed a doctor to tell you that, then I'm afraid you need a doctor.
Different kind, though.
Also, stop using up all the wet wipes in the studio bathroom. Tim from HR.
Tim.
Is that why the
Frickin'
bathroom's
Tim.
always filled with tater tots?
He's like, I'll try these.
That's also why you always hear ding when he goes in. You know?
No, we're done.
This is the kind of stuff that makes Scrapyard. Yes, the
you go,
implication
people.
was that his rectum is similar to a toaster oven. Don't say I didn't warn you. You saw the intro with the Scrapyard.
You're still here.
We
That
warned.
absolves me.
No responsibility.
Much warned.
And a promotional tie-in with, I really hate this one. I don't.
This is terrible.
You know
This
what the
is
worst part
terrible.
is about this next one is that this whole thing that is now scrap. It was a 7+1. What? I don't know what we were thinking.
Yeah.
What?
Smoking.
I'd still like
The
it.
one is bad enough. Well, then.
Too much of a lead-in.
Do
Come
you,
on,
do
let's
you,
go.
okay, how about you read it. You read it
Okay, I'll
audio.
do it.
Wait,
There we
let's-
go.
okay.
In a promotional tie-in with Buffalo Wild Wings, rap group Bone Thugs and Harmony has changed their name to Boneless Thugs and Harmony.
Oh, okay.
That's the real story.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've also announced their summer tour alongside Run KFC, Shake Shack Mafia, and Southwest Chicken Salads with Attitude.
Stanky leg! I just figured that was like to give you a punchline. What? Just because I know that Wade has no idea as to what it feels like to want to swallow a knife when you have a joke that bombs.
great.
So I was giving him air support.
I appreciate
That
it.
joke was awesome.
Thank you. Bill liked it.
Wait, the
Hey.
voicing was great on that. I mean, the joke sucked.
I
but
appreciate
you read it
the-
well.
Yeah, you did. You did.
You're a nice guy, Gerald.
Director. Anything else you want to get out of your system here with Scrapyard before we go to any kind of
Nah, I
laughter or
think
anything?
we're-
Okay.
yeah.
I want to do this one.
You want to do this one?
Yeah.
All right.
Just wait, hold on a second. Just so you know, I changed it right before air because it wasn't offensive. It was offensive, but it's
Not
just
enough.
So I'm just letting you know. All right, I just want to give you enough time so you could see it. Okay, all right. Half Asian Bill.
So director Quentin Tarantino and his wife have welcomed their first child.
What was that? He sounded like Bill Superfoot Waltz in the first UFC.
It sounded like Goofy. So director Quentin Tarantino and his wife have welcomed their first child.
That's nice.
Yeah, from Fox News.
Yeah.
Tarantino said the birth was the most beautiful experience of his life. However, it could have used more blood and N-words.
Yeah, could always use a little.
Yes.
It could always
more.
use more.
All the
An
time.
exploding human being,
You've
maybe.
seen his
I don't
movies.
know.
And you know what? This was yes.
Crime.
We're all familiar with this catalog.
movies?
And I think the
You
original
remember.
one was like I think this one, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah.
we had a really late night.
Right.
It might have been after the stream when we were writing this.
Oh, no.
And I think it stemmed from me doing like a mild Quentin Tarantino impression.
Yeah.
And McBrodigan, for some reason, assumed that we had the budget for prosthetics to make me look like Quentin Tarantino. Like,
No,
could have used,
we don't have
could have
that.
used more blood and N-words. It was like, but it doesn't work without
Right.
without that face that's been twisted from decades of evil.
This weird
Yeah.
Sam Spade
Exactly.
face.
Yeah,
Sometimes you get the face you deserve, and then sometimes in Quentin Tarantino's case, you get the face that nobody deserves.
Really, yeah.
Wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy.
I
It's
wouldn't
cruel.
wish it on my worst enemy. Before
Tough
we
life.
go to the meat segment, Audio Wade, do we have anything
Yeah.
from live
I
chat?
believe we
by the
do,
way,
yeah.
Or, what do we have?
Yeah, so MJ says, have any of you, Stephen, Garrett, Bill, Wade, taken the, and Gerald's here too, taken the political
Thanks.
compass quiz, and would you be open to doing a segment on it like you did with the white privilege and microaggressions quizzes?
I think didn't Ben Shapiro do that?
I think
I
so.
believe so, yeah.
And so I think I did it a long time ago, back when this was still on radio. So, just more proof positive that he copies me. I guess we could revisit it if we
Yeah.
wanted to be unoriginal times 2.
You and Ben are so similar.
We're so similar.
You are, yeah.
Yeah.
There we go.
We should just make Gerald do it, and then the rest of us will just roast him while he's doing it.
Yes, I would do that.
It's a
Yeah,
bad
that's-
idea. I don't think it's a good idea.
You know what? Maybe if you guys, if we see enough people in the comment section who want me to do the political compass quiz, sure. My guess is I'll probably be considered a basic bitch traditional conservative.
Yeah.
Or libertarian. I think people are
More-
often surprised. Like, people are often surprised because I just say the weed thing is what people get upset. Like, listen, I actually think states should be able to legalize weed, and I think it's
Right.
silly that it's a Schedule 1 substance, and I
Yeah.
think that CBD shows a lot of promise. I just think that people aren't responsible when they tell kids like it's less than a beer. No. Some people can smoke and go crazy. That's
Right.
that's
Yeah.
true. It's a side effect. It's not common. But I also think states should be able to legalize heroin
Yeah.
if they want to. I just don't think heroin's a good idea. So people
Yeah.
are often surprised as
Wouldn't
to how
recommend.
libertarian.
Legal disclaimer: StevenCrowder does not recommend.
Yeah, it does.
that
Of
you
course not,
engage in hard drug use. Thank you.
Or
For Louder with
activity.
Crowder, it's crack or nothing. Crack or die, bitches.
Nope.
What is, as a matter of fact,
crack
if you
and
know,
die.
as a matter of fact, I think there's a number at the bottom of the screen. If you order your crack now from louderwithcrowder.com/mugclub, you get a free toy.
Wow.
Hint, it's just more crack.
Promo code ROCK. All right. And we
And
do
it's
have
the
one more
police.
chat.
Might be cut with a little PCP because we cut costs where we can.
Angel dust. He's the drug pusher.
One more chat, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
one more chat.
So someone says, resubscribe to Mug Club with the promo code. Love you guys. Audio Wade, you should release an album. I didn't know this said this before.
Do you know? Are you gonna, do you have
yeah.
plans for an album?
Didn't read ahead. No, no plans, no.
Oh, well, you do
not?
have the voice of an angel.
Thank you.
A male
mixed
angel.
with the sweetest of honeys.
Wow.
Why, thank you, Stephen. That's very
No, he does have a very good voice, and not only that, but Wade's not arrogant about it either. Like Wade is very encouraging in helping
Yeah.
other people with that. I still don't like him, but
Me either.
I don't like
we've
myself.
talked about this doing
fake it.
doing an album because we have
Right.
like 20 tracks.
so much this
We've done
year.
parodies
They're
of,
so
but
funny,
the
I
thing
love
is, it's so hard. Do we put it in? You know what? That's another thing. Let us know. We treat it kind of like a chat on YouTube here. Should we put it on Spotify? I don't know the best way to do it. Spotify, iTunes.
I would.
We could just make it exclusive for
Spotify,
people
yeah.
who are Mug Club members, so that way Mug Club members don't have to pay anything, and you can just download it on the site. But I have no idea how to do this.
So I mean, seriously, every time we end up doing parodies, I would buy a CD of our best ones. Like it would be,
Yes.
I would have it on.
You'd put it-
It'd be hilarious.
You'd put it next to your Batman soundtrack and All for One debut
Yes.
album, and nothing else on the shelf.
Yes, but I would actually probably ask. I'd be like, "Hey, since I'm on the show, can I get like a free copy, like a bootleg?"
That's a no.
So maybe I wouldn't actually buy it.
Overpaid as it is.
We'll just
Damn
take it
it.
out of your check.
Well, you know what? Let us know how we should do that. I don't know anything about this.
be
Like we
fun.
do the podcast, and that goes up on
Right,
all these
yeah.
profiles. But now,
Music, you have to master it right.
well, because the
Yeah.
iTunes
Whole
thing,
process.
is it even still a thing? The iTunes store? Like, can you buy
Yes.
albums there?
What do you mean? Is it a thing? Yes. of
No, I
course.
don't think it is.
No.
We got
They-
Apple
I think they shut
Music
that down. It's
and-
Apple
yeah.
Music.
It's
Oh, is it-
Apple Music.
Okay, I'm
I
sorry.
don't know if
Okay.
you can buy. Maybe you still can. I don't know.
Thanks a lot, Taylor Swift. Oh, you're such a disruptor. Let's go. Let's go. Now we've gotten all that out of our system. Let us know if you ever want to see another Scrapyard again. Let's go to the meat. And see, that was a short stinger, except
so
except
fast.
Bill was laughing uncontrollably.
I was.
He was.
So
I'm
we had
sorry.
to redo the stinger
a little bit.
just because
I'm just gonna laugh thinking about it.
it was a slightly off-color joke about Native American
it was wrong.
naming
That's all it took.
methods. I don't know
Yeah.
if we call them methods. Let's be honest.
Formula.
I mean,
They're just,
Yeah.
it's, take a shot of Windex, whatever comes out, call it a day.
It's infectious humor.
Is ayahuasca a Native American thing?
I think it's South American.
South American?
Yeah, is it?
What's the vision quest the Native Americans take?
It was Vision Quest.
What did I say?
Pretty sure that's like a late '80s arcade system.
No, that was a
Right.
film with Matthew Modine, but it's an actual thing they do, a vision quest.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
No, I do know about
No,
that.
I mean, I don't know anything about it.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, because you don't do drugs aside from those prescribed, which cause
Peyote.
gross
Peyote.
physical... Peyote.
Peyote. They sit in a circle. Do some
I was
peyote.
looking for a
Yeah.
lifeline because I didn't want to stop on not knowing.
Yeah.
Thank you. And he was playing it all cool, like, I don't know anything about drugs. Peyote? What are you talking about? PCP, DMT? Which
Which one do you want?
I got some right here.
opens the trunk to his Jeep. Like,
I just
oh my
remember it
God.
from Young Guns.
Don't let my lawyer see this.
No, I've been
okay.
in there.
That's hilarious.
So we've all been in there. I don't know what that means. I think we have. I have no idea. Get a new shirt, Gerald.
Nope, go Irish.
What?
Go.
Is that what- oh, I didn't even
it's
read
Notre
it.
Dame.
I didn't pay that much attention. You
You
assumed
should.
we all were reading it.
You should. Yes.
So, question. Here's my question today before we move on a little bit. And I know people will be upset and it's controversial. And yeah, I don't really care. At what point do you think that we need to consider reopening the American economy? When do you think the ill effects of staying shut down could be worse than the virus itself? By the way, everyone here cares about every single life lost.
Yes,
okay?
we do.
None of us hate old people. None of us think the virus is... Just want to be clear about all that. That being said, I do think there is some bullshit afoot. So... Past week, Donald Trump has been talking about, and by the way, I just love, if you didn't watch the presser yesterday, I'm thinking, let me know what you think. I'm thinking about just
man.
running the Donald Trump press briefings on this
should.
channel or in
You
Crowder
should.
Bits live because CNN cut out
You should.
to do
Yeah,
the
you
job
should.
that the
I think
media
that'd be
won't do.
fantastic.
Did you see him present that video last night? He came in with a video of his timeline. And
saw it.
just to be really clear, because a lot of people saw the video. They didn't see the feed of him presenting the video to the room. Did you
Right.
see that?
Yeah, I did.
So there's a video that comes up and it shows a timeline, and the timeline says, in states China travel ban, and he goes. And at one point, he's playing a montage like we'll do here that indicts the media, where they're saying
Yeah.
you should be more worried about the flu. This is not a
Yeah.
concern. And Nancy Pelosi saying, I'll come down to Chinatown. And at one point, there's someone from CBS who says you should worry more about the flu, and he goes, that's right. And he points to the report.
I love it.
It's petty and childish
about
and
you.
exactly what we need.
He was defending himself. Come on.
Yeah,
They started it.
This world could use a little bit more petty childish. What? Cornish game hen? Why'd I stop?
Churlish.
So throughout this past week, and again, when you remove the Trumpisms, I think that what you're about to see entirely reasonable. He's mentioned a date of May 1st, but nothing concrete. He has talked about entertaining the idea of reopening certain portions of the economy. Let's take it in context. Here's what he said.
I don't know that I've had a bigger decision, but I'm going to surround myself with the greatest minds. Not only the greatest minds, but the greatest minds in numerous different businesses, including the business of politics and reason. And we're going to make a decision, and hopefully it's going to be the right decision. I will say this. I want to get it open as soon as we can.
Great minds from politics and reason. And his chief of staff is like, note to self, hire a writer from Reason. Nick Gillespie, great sideburns. I also hear Matt Kibbe has them, but I'm not familiar, but I hear they're good folks. What is it with libertarians and sideburns?
Yeah, I don't know. It's
Really?
phenomenon.
I guess they're all previous rockabilly cover band enthusiasts. So that was what he said. I don't know. I think that was pretty reasonable when you remove the great industries like politics, philosophy, Plato, plated dinner
Plato.
ready at home. I love that service. That's not even really. Excuse me. But the media reacted as you would expect them to react, as though that, which was a pretty, I think, measured response, saying at some point we need to balance lives and livelihoods. But the media has reacted. Go.
I mean, there's no way we can even start to think about opening things back up unless we've got a few
We
things
can
in place.
start.
Right?
The former reality show
And
star
we can
tells
think.
a story about American resilience. What he lacks in empathy
also
for the
the
dead,
president.
he makes up for in his insistence that the country will come back stronger than ever.
And instead just
came
went
back
with his
fatter than ever,
intuition, is
right?
once again telling
Or
people
balder.
he's going to decide to reopen the economy soon based on his instincts.
President Trump's new date for getting the country back to work is May 1st. I see no chance that's going to happen. And I don't think there's any likelihood of states such as New York and California saying, fine, we'll just send everybody back on May 1st, because they're worried we would just have another outbreak again and the hospital systems would be overwhelmed all over again.
You are correct. He is Benjamin. At the end of that segment, it was just a suit with a tie and a head.
Yeah. Little baby.
Yeah.
And it was a needless budget.
Yeah,
that wasn't recouped.
That guy belongs on Good Morning Mug Club. He's wearing a bathrobe. It's perfect. It's amazing.
The gap is shrinking. It's the race to the middle. So this is remarkable. Let's look and see if there is even a case remotely for reopening the economy, or when that case should be made, or if we can, contrary to what Rachel Maddow says, think about.
No, you can't even think.
We
yet.
can't even start to think. I think we can start, and I think we can think.
We can do both.
I think, therefore, I'm not Rachel Maddow. So there's a delineating.
That's how it works.
Back to, was it Plato? Back to philosophy humor. It's a genre.
Not to eat.
I like how controversial it is to be thinking.
Right.
Listen, we can't even think, people.
Yeah.
I just want to let you know, just listen to me, Rachel Maddow. I'll tell you the answers. Don't think.
Why would I respect your pick? You don't even have mutton chops.
That's the ticket into the door.
Let's look at this. People just throw out numbers in a vacuum. This is what the media has done. And I think context matters. You've heard me talk about this consistently, context over content. When you take the numbers into context, the United States is actually doing surprisingly well. You can focus on raw total numbers, and then I think one person, when I tweeted out an article that was removed from Medium, they said, well, why are you saying the per capita numbers matter more than total? Because if a country has 30 million people and a country has 330 million people, the per capita numbers kind of matter.
It does, just a little.
I think it's more relevant. You let me know which metrics you think are more relevant. That being said, we're still doing better than Europe. Which part? All of it. Except for Germany, which surprises me, but I think there's a coup in the works. Keep your eyes on them.
Shifty Germans.
Every time.
The deaths per capita per 1 million, and you can go to Worldometer and use this metric to list them, I think is what's most important. Because testing rates aren't accurate, infection rates aren't accurate, we don't necessarily know how accurate the antibody tests are. The death rate, the mortality rate, of course, is based on a percentage of how many people die versus how many people test positive. So what is concrete that is undeniable is how many people have died from the virus, and then specifically, to put it into context, how many people per capita. So you don't see that number covered a whole lot from the media. Why? Well, a couple of things. When you do see it covered, this is important too, you see a graph like this. This is how it's presented. Let's bring this up. So look at that. That graph looks pretty bad, but keep that up there for a little bit. The reason that graph looks that way is that they are tracking from when deaths registered. This is what it's called, logarithmic, logarithmic, log. I've only ever read these words. I've never pronounced them.
Logarithmic.
I have very little interaction with human beings outside of the studio.
Oh, that's
I
true.
read words and names.
As you should.
Bring that back up. Notice something? There's the same distance between 1 and 10 as 10 to 100. Now, I understand why that's necessary if you have a graph where the number is so exponential that it would all of a sudden end up off the graph.
Right.
That's not the case here. Let's look at the exact same numbers. And by the way, that presentation, of course, favors smaller countries. It masks sort of the contrast between the United States and smaller countries. Look at the exact same numbers, and our brilliant researcher, Reg, created a sort of properly spaced linear y-axis, counting, again, while we're talking about response time, which is what the media is talking about, from the day of the first death, since that's what matters as far as response time. Do you notice something?
Wow.
Notice that?
Yeah.
That looks like
The
us
United
at the bottom
States
there.
is lower than everyone by a significant margin with the exception of Germany.
Does that say we're losing?
Yes, exactly.
It's like golf, Bill. You want to be lower.
There's someone right there right now like, no, we're not going to be second to anyone. Nope. Certainly not France. Starts licking poles.
Getting those numbers up.
Change that graph myself.
Well, and all you hear basically is that the United States has the largest number of cases in the world or the largest number of deaths. Whatever they tend to throw out. And I'm like, guys, even if that were true, even if we had the highest number of cases.
You mean you don't trust China?
Seriously,
you don't trust
China?
the ticket to China?
Yeah, they've had 4 times the population,
Sorry,
but
I mean,
they're doing just
look,
fine.
I read it on Bloomberg. Don't trust China.
Oh, that's true.
I didn't believe it at first, but now I believe it. Thank you, Bloomberg, finally for telling me what to know.
Yeah, well, I love how we actually act as though Bloomberg was written by Bloomberg.
Right.
Which, by the way, would immediately discredit all. Like, the reason Bloomberg is valuable is because he has nothing to do with it.
Yes.
So virtually all of Europe, with the exception of Germany. Again, not a hoax, the virus, but it certainly at no point has been as bad as the media made it out to be. Keep in context, 2.5 million, or if we implement social distancing measures right away, extreme, the minimum is 100 to 240,000. And then the number was reduced. That wasn't in the absence of social distancing. That was taking into account social distancing. Some more examples. This matters because just like climate change, Florida's supposed to be gone. We aren't supposed to have some kind of a rainbow fish. I don't know.
Still there, sadly.
Still there. Great Lakes, record highs.
Florida's fine.
Same techniques, by the way, being used as people who, if you say, I'll go back to the climate change thing. New York, this was a good example. Even where Donald Trump, I thought that he was wrong, where I was like, wow, that's petty. So New York, they said that they needed 40,000 ventilators. Trump sent 4,000. They didn't even use all of them. But he questioned their need for them. I remember watching the presser going, that's not a smart move, because they say they need 40,000 ventilators. I don't know what's happening. We might have to look into what they're doing with ventilators. And everyone goes, oh, how dare you question their numbers? And I was even like, well, why would you question their numbers? That's a losing battle. You know why? Because they need less than 4. Less than 10% of the ventilators they claim they needed. And he was saying, we should keep them here so we can send them to states who need them, not give them as a stockpile with no pre-existing terms to barbell nipple.
Specifically barbell nipple.
I thought they were both barbells.
Yeah.
Are they both barbells?
I don't know.
I don't know, but let's keep the rumor alive as though it's accurate.
Absolutely. Well, and it's like if you question any of the information, so states can say, oh my God, there's going to be a panic, and say, I need a lot more than you actually need. Well, we're seeing now, like, no, he was right on all of these points.
Well, to be clear, he didn't say he was right. De Blasio said, yeah, we didn't, we're good.
No, de Blasio said that, but my point now is that when Rachel Maddow and company come out and say, well, we can't possibly reopen the economy. I mean, how could you ever possibly? It's like, well, guys, you haven't been right on anything.
And by the way,
yet.
it's the same attack that Donald Trump doesn't care about dying patients in New York because he wants them to ventilators. He was saying, I don't think you need all of these ventilators right now.
Guess what? If you do, we'll send them.
Right. And right now they have a federal stockpile of over 10,000 ventilators. But if they'd have sent, so in other words, they would have sent their entire stockpile to New York.
Right.
Without the ability to send them to other states who might need them. So de Blasio said, we're good. See, here's another thing. Some of these are anecdotal, but these are things that you heard in the media, and then when they turn out to not come to fruition, they just move on. Like Florida, still there.
Last we checked.
Seattle was a big one. Remember, you saw all this publicity. They set up an emergency 250-bed sort of Army field hospital for the surge. Never saw a patient, packed up and left after 9 days. Now, I want to be clear. That's not saying that no surge could happen, but it was predicted concretely that unless you get them what they need, unless 40,000 ventilators, unless we open up extra hospitals, people will die. Why don't you care about people dying? That was what was sold to us. And in nearly every instance, it's been a fraction.
Right.
A fraction of what they've claimed. By the way, speaking of fractions, because it has nothing to do with them, hit the notification bell.
That was a hard pivot.
It was a
I've seen better.
bad pivot. It was a pivot. So, notification bell, hit all notifications, and of course, quarantine is a promo code right now. All of this, if you haven't been convinced, all of this is available for free this month, Mug Club Quarantine Month.
Well, and Benjamin Button at the end of that last video, the guy with the bow tie and the bathrobe, said, if we open this economy back up on May 1st.
Did you really feel the need to specify that?
I did, yes.
Which one?
Well, there was
the one we
person
all
out there,
agreed was Benjamin Button?
There was one person out there who didn't understand what I said. Now, that was for you.
Okay.
So he said, basically, if we open this back up, all of the hospitals are again going to be overrun. And I'm like, wait a minute. Can you show me all of the hospitals being overrun now? I mean, there may be some examples of that, but very, very few.
And this is something they don't tell you.
Exist.
Hospitals are higher, their beds, their ICU beds, are at higher fill rates than they were in the past. So that may mean that a hospital goes from a typical fill rate of like 57% of hospital beds are occupied, right, an occupied rate, to 67. Or it might go from 67 to 86. And so they're not necessarily ready to handle this load, but it doesn't mean that all of the beds are filled and they need another hospital. And that's what we've been sold. So the numbers in context matter.
Well, and just because it's happening in New York doesn't mean it's happening in Des Moines, right? So it's not like all hospitals are being overrun. There may be pockets that are.
Don't sully Des Moines' fine reputation by throwing them into the same breath as New York City. Just kidding. Welcome to New York. There's no song for Des Moines.
When you get sick.
It ends after the half of the first verse.
Welcome to Des Moines.
Here's an exception, by the way, in Europe, Sweden. So Sweden is still actually doing better than many of the surrounding countries, despite not having a lockdown. And I know that it's tough to compare all countries because it's tough to compare their healthcare systems. And Sweden is actually more free enterprise based than a lot of places out there. A lot of people don't realize that, certainly as far as how they treat businesses. Something people don't take into account, South Korea. South Korea didn't do a full shutdown. Now, granted, they doxed their citizens, but they also decided to protect the most vulnerable among them, quarantine those
Sounds
people.
reasonable.
I suggested that here with my Korean doctor. Everyone thought that I didn't care about old people dying. So, joke's on you because I don't know why it's on you. I still care about anyone dying. I want to be clear. Let me just backtrack this. Old people shouldn't die ever. Yeah. If I were president, no one would ever die.
Wow.
Not sure you can make that claim.
Vote for you.
Crowder 2024. So we do need to balance the numbers that we've been presented, right? And you do have to say, okay, in context, how much does this paint a total picture?
Right.
What can we predict versus what we know? And that's what matters when you're weighing lives versus livelihoods. So we don't know exactly what the total death count will be. We don't know what the mortality rate is. We know that it's exceedingly low for people who don't have diabetes or pre-existing conditions, heart conditions below the age of 80 in Italy, below the age of 70 in most countries. Depends where you go. If you're under the age of 70, let's play it safe, and you don't have any pre-existing conditions, you'll likely be fine. Wear a mask. Although the CDC said don't wear masks.
But now
go back. Can we rewind? Where I said probably wear a mask. Let's compare that to what we know. Jobless claims. 17 million.
That's insane.
Over the past weeks. We've hit that number, I believe, this week finally. Here's a percentage that we do know. Small businesses, right, who say that their business will still be intact, still exist if the crisis lasts 6 months, as that young man, Rachel Maddow, was suggesting. Yeah. Other than grocers, for some reason they're excluded. 33% say they'll be in business when it comes to hotels. 27% of personal services, 22% of restaurants and bars, 15% of other. And to be clear, there is a plus or minus variance of 4% because of untoward massage parlors. I don't know why they were included. It skews the sampling data.
Mostly Asian.
People are still visiting the Chinese. It's fine.
No, but the Census Bureau wanted to make that visit. So... That's, by the way, people saying it will still be open. 33% of hotels will still be open.
Wow.
Not they'll close. Yeah. I want to be clear that I have this right. Yes. Yep. Yeah. Say the business will still exist after 6 months. So
those
these
are terrifying
aren't just
numbers.
And this is important. These aren't just hypothetical numbers.
Yeah.
These have real world impact. And I don't know why we are not taking into account when every other day of the year, you can tune into Vox, you can tune into CNN where they talk about food deserts, and they talk about poverty, they talk about unemployment and how that leads to mental illness, and all of the other auxiliary effects, right? Severe unemployment leads to, whose phone is that? Whose phone is that?
I don't know, it's probably Bill's.
All right, so.
How dare you?
Your phone on? We'll do it live.
Yes.
Was that Sting?
Yes.
I don't know what that means to play us out.
Motley Crue.
You've been in broadcasting for 30 years and you don't.
Who's got the hook?
Severe unemployment. We're not going to edit it. This is live.
Yeah, no, that's gone.
Severe unemployment. This is who am I, Seth Meyers? So let's be clear about this. It's not a racial thing when they try to say it's about oppressed classes. No, but severe unemployment, poverty, it leads to an increase in burglaries, suicides, homelessness, overall poor public health in the long run.
Those
People
are
who are
bad.
poor, more likely to have heart conditions, more likely to be obese, more likely to have diabetes, which means that you will have far less resistance to the actual contagion-like bug that we've been told is coming around the corner.
Yeah, and when economies crash, Stephen, we've got this throughout world history. When economies crash, people do really stupid things. Right? They allow people like Adolf Hitler, who years before was already put in jail because they rejected his ideas, to get out and come into power. They allow people like Mussolini to come in and say, we're going to restore Italy to the prominence that it once had, and say, well, all right, things are really bad. Maybe this guy can do it. They do really stupid things. And so you don't take that for granted.
That's true. Any thoughts on that, since you come from the country with all the dictators?
I have all of them. Mussolini.
It's tradition.
Yeah, hey, I'm going to tell you, dictatorship, it's going to lead clearly to having lower corona deaths. Just look at my friends in China.
Yes, exactly.
I'm just saying, the numbers speak for themselves. And hey, you know we're good at math.
Nary a wet market to be found. Here's something else. I think you'll see a different tune being sung now. Why? Because... And this is what's so amazing to me. I mean, and not ironic like the Alanis Morissette song where it's like a lot of that's coincidental.
Yeah, that's not ironic.
We get that you have a Canadian pass because, you're foreign. There's something exotic about you. It's like the whole...
That's not foreign.
The whole Weird Al Chic look.
Yeah. No, not really.
But it's not really ironic to rain on your wedding day. That's an unfortunate coincidence. This is actually ironic.
Actually lucky.
Because of this pandemic right now, and because of the fact that they have predicted these surges and they've tried to prepare for them, hospitals are now furloughing or laying off workers. So this economy is directly affecting healthcare workers because there aren't enough jobs to go around. And then this is another one that is, to me, and I'm not taking any pleasure in this, what I'm saying is that when you just throw out hypothetical numbers and you tell everyone that they have to beat to the beat of your drum, they have to dance to the beat of March to the D. I'm very tired. I knew as soon as it came out of my mouth that I'd say dance to the beat of your own. I was like, what am I saying? Peyote? Vision quest? What are we talking about?
Ayahuasca.
Here's another thing. I read this article. Take no joy in anyone being unemployed unless it's a Unless it's this next person. So journalism has been hit hard, and I use journalism in the loosest sense of the word. So hard that Democratic senators and journalists are now demanding a bailout. There was an article at HuffPost saying you better save the local news. First off, why? Second, let's keep in mind these people already receive the same kind of stimulus checks right now. Just keep in mind they receive the individual checks and the small business loans that are available. In other words, that's not enough. And I do think that it's ironic, considering that you told everybody else who said maybe we should look at reopening the economy that they were effectively Hitler reincarnated. And now you're saying, hey, that the economy has affected you. You should be bailed out at the taxpayer expense. No. We're all in this together at this point.
Right.
Journalists included. At least you should be, because your job is certainly non-essential. Well, Schenectady Register / Poughkeepsie Herald.
You merged. Well, I
did. It was a merger.
Should have come up with a new name.
It was a necessity. They had to.
Well, I thought that the Democrats were against bailing out big corporations, and now they're trying to bail out these journalistic.
No. They're only against bailing out useful corporations.
Oh,
yeah.
For useful to them, maybe not to the rest of America.
I'm against bailing out any corporations. How about that? Unless the government stepped in and said, shut down your corporation.
Right.
Nobody patron this corporation. Well, then fine. That's
this is a totally different situation. Right. But they were saying the money should just go directly to the people and not through businesses that provide the jobs to the people. But unless it's this, they want to save them now.
Yeah. Not as it applies to the West Texas Times.
Oh.
I'm running out of names.
They need to merge with the Schenectady Register to have some power.
The Des Moines Morning News. I mean, I can keep going, but they're only going to get worse.
Gazette.
Yes.
I love it.
Salt Lake City Gazette. It's just like 19 wives in a room with a typewriter.
And one overworked husband.
But the synergy is amazing. One just types it, and then the other wife goes, ding, and she goes, thank you. Ding.
Efficient, though.
Yeah.
I thought there was one per key, one per letter.
Wow.
One of them handles vowels, I guess.
Yeah. It's like the New Deal. It's just jobs everywhere.
This is a horrible segment. Yep. So it's just amazing to me that, they want the economy to stay closed for thee, but not for me. Right. And by the way, this doesn't help healthcare workers. It doesn't help healthcare workers. And this is one thing, too. It doesn't help healthcare workers who are honestly at the front lines trying to do a good job for some other nurse to go out there and take an Instagram picture of the bags under her eyes and say, we're all at death's door. When you have other healthcare workers saying, no, we don't want to waste resources. We don't need 40,000 ventilators. Someone who's not trying to politicize it, because that actually would be more inventory than we could take care of right now. Unfortunately, everyone's afraid to speak out. Why? Because they'll tell you that you don't like anyone, that you want old people to die. That's not true. And this is just like the climate change issue that I wanted to come back to. And then I think we have Glenn Beck coming up after this. Yeah. Climate change, listen, it's not enough to say, hey, yeah, sure, the world is warming. It's not enough to say, you know what, I think humans might have an impact. It's not enough to say, hey, you know what, we might actually have a vested interest here in trying to find more renewable energy. But if you say, you know what, I just don't believe that the Kyoto Protocol, the Montreal Agreement, Kyoto Protocol / Paris Accord is going to fix the issue of climate change, and we certainly shouldn't try and deal with climate change at the expense of human life or human beings who create industries that innovate, which is ultimately what will solve our energy problem in the long run, all of a sudden, you're an apostate. You're a pariah. You have no business speaking even at the table. It's the same thing that's happening here right now. We're not saying that this is a hoax. What we are saying, and I've been saying this all along, and I see a lot of conservatives now sort of walking it back. They're saying, this is something we need to get ahead of. Of course, we need to be ahead of this, and I think we've done a pretty good job. But we've always been saying, and I maintain this, I won't be shamed into panic, we need to, and people don't like saying this because there are lives at stake. There are always lives at stake. That being said, when you make maneuvers in war, there are lives at stake. Yep. When you decide who goes to the lifeboats first, you still have to make a risk assessment call with lives at stake. And in this case, when we know the ramifications of the kind of unemployment and crippling economy that could be seen for generations to come, there does need to be a balance between saving lives from a virus, none of the models have proven to be accurate, versus the livelihoods of everyone who will be alive, which is 99.9999999. I don't even have a calculator that goes that far. I was too busy spelling boobs on it upside down.
So fun.
99.999, I lost my train of thought, of people who will still be around after this virus. And what I think is most important is anyone out there and people who've been feeling this for a long time, I want you to speak out about this. I want you to speak out with everyone that you know in your personal lives, any platform you have. Just try and present it from a compassionate point of view and with balance. And when these people like Rachel Maddow talk about Donald Trump, or Brian Stelter literally said that Donald Trump has no empathy for the lives lost, or they say, you know what, if you believe that, you don't care about the country. No, I'm talking about all of the people out there who are scraping for a job. They are clawing and biting to try and preserve their livelihood. Don't say that when I say we need to take their lives into account, their livelihoods, that I don't care about the country. They are the country, and that's the point. Okay, let's go to Glenn Beck after. My knee is like...
Let's all try some wafer. Let's all try some wafer. Let's all try some wafer because they are badass.
Walther Firearms. Quality firearm engineering for over a century. Sleek lines, butter-smooth triggers, and unparalleled reliability. Walther created the first semi-automatic pistol in 1908, and they've made the best ever since. So the next chance you have, demand loudly and proudly, I'll try the Walther.
Let's all try some wafer because they are badass.
I feel like I don't really have the hips like the dance. You know, sometimes people move their hips. You're like, oh my gosh, it's like a bobblehead doll, but instead of the head, it's the hips. It's like, but I'm pretty loose in the shoulders. I mean, I got pretty
shoulder work.
Yeah, because I can dislocate them. Because of my connective tissue damage. So it's fun.
Right. At least you can use it.
At least I can use it. Our next guest, you know him. Of course, he's been on the show many times, and I've known him for, gosh, probably going on is it a decade now?
Wow.
I have no idea. I feel old, but he's older because he has white hair. At Glenn Beck on the Twitter, and of course, you know him, The Blaze. He has his shows that are there, both his radio show and his television show. His new book is Arguing with Socialists, which I don't know why. I don't have the book because I didn't get the link for it until recently, so I don't have a physical copy. Mr. Glenn Beck, how are you, sir?
Very good. I can't believe we didn't deliver a copy to you.
Yeah, I know. I didn't want anyone there to be fired, but I assume you'll handle business.
I don't know. I'm a little busy polishing my nipple rings today.
Yes. Yes. Well, here's the thing. You were okay. So I have two things. I want to go to your tattoos and the Cuomo nipple rings. But before that, where's the book available? Right. Just to be clear.
Any place that is open.
Okay, that's right. So nowhere.
It's open, you can buy it. It's at a bookstore, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever.
Okay, good. Yeah, by the way, there's an Amazon Barnes & Noble cafe. You see that recently? It's really? Barnes & Noble cafe right next to a Starbucks. And the Barnes & Noble cafe has definitively less books or magazines than cafe items. Have you seen these recently, Glenn?
Yes, I have. Yeah. There's one in Southlake down here, and it's like 40,000 square feet, and most of it is just for coffee now.
Right. Yes. Exactly.
It's
and I don't
crazy.
Even. And it just says we proudly carry Starbucks. I'm like, well, there's a Starbucks literally right next door. I was here for the books, and I thought maybe I'll grab a coffee when I go buy a book. But there are no books. It's just coffee. And not good coffee either. So, okay, I want to go back to your we'll go back to the book, but before that, nipple rings. We were talking about this before we went on air. You think that Mr. Governor Cuomo, you think it's an actual nipple ring? I think he might have had I
think it's...
Yeah.
No, I think it's two, Stephen. I think he's got one here and one here, and they're big, they're nasty, and I don't want to think about them, honestly. I mean, they may have started here, but I think they're actually down here now.
Yes, yeah.
And that was even more disturbing.
It's all the added weight.
Heavy, yeah, he's a stand-in double for National Geographic specials. Yeah. They just put in Cuomo, so you just guess from up close. They zoom out, you're like, oh, Andrew. I don't know. And here's the thing, I wouldn't have so much of a problem with it if he didn't hide it. Like if someone nipple rings Folsom Street Fair, let your freak flag fly, but you're trying to act like the kind of person who would be at a Barnes & Noble cafe, but you have the nipple rings. It's like pick a lane.
Yeah. Well, no, wait a minute. I don't want to see him dressed like one of the village people. I don't want to see him shirtless in chaps and nipple rings doing the governor's work.
That is a gross mischaracterization.
So he's trying to hide it.
That is a gross mischaracterization of what happes at the Folsom Street Fair. It is a family-friendly event.
How dare you, sir?
I go there. I have my kids for drag time, story time, whatever.
Yes.
All the time.
Where the weapons are. Yeah.
Right. So how are you saying he's hiding them?
Well, because in other words, if he just lifted it, said, "Hey, look at my nipple ring, big deal," and moved on. But they're in a golf shirt. I think he just made the mistake. He made the mistake of wearing the wrong fabric golf shirt. Like if he'd have worn the traditional sort of terry cloth cotton, but he wore the peak cotton, so it's very sheer. So I don't think he intended that. And then he didn't answer. He needs to answer for his nipple barbells.
Yep. If he would have answered, then it would have been fine. But it still would have been creepy, and I don't want to think about his nipple rings anymore.
Well, I'll be sure to bring it up later in the interview because it's a spite topic. And then the other thing is, a lot of people don't know you have a lot of tattoos, right? So you know nipple rings. But
No,
you do
I have
tattoos.
one.
What? I thought you have the one on your calf, right?
Yeah, I have one.
Okay. I thought there was more.
Around my ankle.
Okay.
No.
No.
Not that you've ever seen.
Well, I remember you showing it because we were at Fox, and I was kind of like, I guess, sort of co-hosting because you were answering questions with the audience, and so I was fielding questions, and one of them was about your tattoo, and I had never known that you had a tattoo, and you showed it, and what is it on your calf ankle? I mean, it's a pretty elaborate tattoo. Okay, we can see it. There we go. Well,
can you see that?
Yeah, no,
almost.
you're gonna have to do some yoga. Okay.
I'm not as nimble as you are.
No, well, I know that's.
It's from an old Gaelic chalice, so it's quite elaborate.
That's
right. And then it has my children's birthdays.
Okay, that's why you were so offended when I made a joke about it. I remember you said something about Gaelic, and I said, "What if it says like, hey, this guy's Gaelic?" And you looked at me like you were very sad. Like, is this something that meant a lot to you? And I was like, no, it's just a joke. I don't know. I shouldn't be at this network hosting. That's about it. Okay. Tell me about your book, Arguing with Socialists. I remember arguing with idiots because I had started my career. That was in 2009. And I really loved that book. I remember that book was kind of what put me on the path to learning more, and I use it as a reference in my Detroit video, or I use the references from your book. That one specifically addressed the idea of hybrid cars and how they were actually losing manufacturers money on each one sold. Even the Prius, I believe, up until 2009. I don't know what it is right now. So it was a really, I mean, I know a lot of people know you for your style and you're more of an op-ed person, but there was some information there that I think really would have served people well. So this is similar because I mean, arguing with idiots, obviously different. Arguing with socialists sounds redundant.
Right. So it's really not different. It's really not different. Just updated idiots to socialists.
Yes.
Stephen, that's the reason why what you just said is what I've heard about that book for 10 years. It was really effective for people that were your age at the time, especially. Yeah. Because it has 100-page of really fine print footnotes at the end, so you don't ever have to quote me. You have all of the information there. Right. And it's also, I mean, because I'm riddled with ADD, it's also full of charts and graphs and, comics and everything else. Right. And we tried to look for the best arguments against capitalism, and so there's no strawman in here. It's not the stereotypical conservative just throwing lame complaints about capitalism and then just rah.
If you want to live in communist China, why don't you get the hell out? That kind of thing.
Exactly right. Yes. Exactly right.
Yeah, exactly.
So we tried to take and really look, because there's bad things about the free market. Sure. And there's bad things about socialism, a lot more over here. But, let's look at what the real arguments are. And if you have an open mind at all, you want to serve people the best way you can. So which one works, which one doesn't?
And I appreciate the self-awareness there, and that you say we don't have to quote you. It doesn't mean that your arguments are illegitimate at all. But I know, for example, that's always why we provide sources here that are usually the New York Times. We get them from PubMed, because I know if someone says, "Well, Steven Crowder," I go, "Don't list me as a source because I'm an asshole." all, and no one will listen to you. So not that you are, but that's why. But you know that people will see it as biased, so you list your original references, which is what really helped me with arguing with idiots. Yeah, I remember using them quite a bit, then going online and searching it.
Yeah, you're a complete idiot if you quote me or you quote you,
right?
Because the media has done a good job, and quite honestly, I have been very effective at smearing myself as well. The media has done a great job on making us losers, or people you can't trust, or just hacks that don't know what they're talking about. So if you believe we do, well, good. Get the book. And we've taken all of the facts from the New York Times. Anytime I found something from the Heritage Foundation, I went back to the researchers and said, go find it from a source that the left appreciates.
Right.
Don't take it from the Heritage Foundation. Take it from something that the left will say, okay, well, all right, it's the New York Times.
You're right. And they came back. You're like, not Anna Kasparian. Go back to the think tank. Bring me something useful. This is important, though, because we've done this, when we prepare for Change My Mind, I sit down with a brilliant researcher, Reg, who's literally more than a mental level IQ and squats like 700 pounds. He's just the scariest person on earth. But we always try and prepare because we have to, right? We're going to go out and it's a free-for-all. It's 4 hours of anyone, including professors. And with socialism, it's very common that they say, well, there are socialist elements. And so we've always focused not so much on totalitarian Marxism, but really sort of the Norwegian socialist model. I think you refer to it in your book as the Swedish-style socialism, because that's what's often, it's the socialism du jour, right? They used to point to Canada when I lived in Canada, and they said, well, that doesn't work. They used to point to France or maybe Belgium, and they go, well, that doesn't work. So now they point to Sweden. Can you tell me how you define that or why it's something that you address in the book?
Yeah, so Sweden is, it's not a socialist country. It is more free on its industry than we are. It has fewer regulations. Out of the Norwegian countries, I think 3 of them have lower taxes than we do.
Yeah.
It is not a socialist system. It used to be, and then it failed around the time ABBA started to fail.
Right.
And they got away from ABBA, and they got away from socialism.
And then they brought back Pierce Brosnan covering ABBA, and they were like, shut! Why do you keep throwing it in our faces? So bad.
So they got rid of that because they couldn't afford it anymore. It wasn't working. The taxes were getting way too high, and everything was collapsing. So they knew they had to get out of the socialist game, and they become very, very free market.
Right.
I mean, a socialist country doesn't come up with IKEA where you can buy furniture you have to put together and have Swedish meatballs.
Right. And no return
not
policy.
A socialist country that does
no return policy whatsoever. It's like, well, I brought it home and it was broken. You broke it. You brought it. I didn't break it. It arrived broken. They have no return policy at all. If you have something shipped from IKEA, you are on your own. And something else, too, that... yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say mostly, I mean, I think they break because it's just glued sawdust, isn't it? Most of it.
Yeah.
And they just take sawdust, put glue, and just hold it together.
Right. Yeah, it really is pretty bad. But I outfitted my entire house with IKEA when we first got married, and then I sat.
That's every
People
wedding, too.
joked we broke the bed, my wife and I, and they were like, "Oh, yeah, newlyweds." And I'm like, "No, I just literally laid down, and it snapped right down the middle." I'm like, "I wish there was some story. It's just bad Swedish design. Okay, there's nothing sultry." And it's true story. You can go, but people can use the time machine. Go back on my Twitter. So let me ask you this, though, too. Another term we were just talking about in the morning show this week. The eco-socialism is something that's also kind of a new buzz phrase. They just want to rebrand. So you have democratic socialism, Swedish-style socialism. Eco-socialism is another point that I think, if I'm not mistaken, you address in your book, and we hear that from AOC a lot.
Yeah. In the first chapter, I define the words, and I think the most important thing is that socialism cannot escape its history. And people will say, oh, no, well, those are communist countries. Actually, communism has never been done before. Communism is not a step that anyone has completed. In fact, Soviet Union was the United or Union of Socialist Soviet States.
Right.
And so it's a Soviet system is the socialist system. Cuba is a socialist, not communist. Communism is once there is no gun behind it, once everybody's in that utopia where we all just put our money down and we're all working together and everybody owns everything. It's never gotten there.
Right.
It never gets past the socialist part.
No.
So the important thing to remember is that socialism is the part with the guns.
Right.
If it's not, if you're looking at some place like Sweden, they would have had to go to guns if they weren't Swedish.
Right.
They would have had to go to guns. Instead, they just got rid of it and went to capitalism.
Right.
So it's the part that always ends in Venezuela. And nobody will ever admit that. But that's the important thing.
Well, I think it's also important to bring up, like you said, the USSR. I mean, a big part of that was Sandals Resorts didn't want to share their profits. We have Bernie coming in here on a honeymoon, and listen, we eat what we kill. It happens. It happened the same thing in Canada, to a lesser extent, where I lived there under a universal healthcare system, a socialized healthcare system in Quebec. And apparently Quebec is, when I did the video back in 2009, Canadian healthcare, people said, oh, you're biased. You just picked the worst hospitals in Canada. I said, the Charlemagne Hospital, that's where I went. That's literally down the block from where I went to all the hospitals that I went to in my municipality. Yeah. There was no privatized healthcare at all. It was illegal until there was a Supreme Court case in 2005, Chouy versus Quebec, and I've talked about this quite a bit, where they said it's a violation of human rights to force people into these waiting lines, and if they want to pay for care and they're at death's door, they have the right to. That didn't exist when I was there. So my mother was looking at 11 or 14 months for an MRI. To see a dermatologist was 9 months for me. I mean, it was incredibly long. And I lived under that. And I think a lot of times people take the most severe example, if it's Maoist China. And I go, hold on a second, you don't have to. I think to Americans, understanding the reality of socialism light would be scary enough.
Mm-hmm. I think what you don't hear is, for instance, right now under COVID, you don't hear the private sector begging the British government to please let us make masks. Let us help you with the vaccine. Please let us do this. Under the NIH in Great Britain, they can't without a government exception.
Right.
And the government doesn't want to make an exception. That's insanity.
Yeah.
And if you really truly love the socialist system, watch where the vaccine, watch where the medicines come from, because they're not going to be coming from Venezuela. They're not going to be coming most likely from Canada. They're going to be coming from a free market.
Yeah.
And we are not even the most free.
No.
Sweden, when it comes to business, Sweden is more free than we are.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't know that. Again, from being a Canadian, I remember when Barack Obama was president, Canada for the first time ever was higher on the Economic Freedom Index than the United States. And they avoided the housing bubble because their prime minister, Stephen Harper, just said, wait, hold on a second. Give loans to people who can't pay it back because racism or something? We're not going to do that. They still need 25% down. They just said no.
Bad idea.
Yeah. And they avoided it. So even, this is the one thing too, usually when socialist countries avoid catastrophes that we face here, it's because they're more conservative on that specific issue. And speaking of that, I want to go to sort of the COVID topic, obviously. If people look at the death rates per capita, you have to remove like Luxembourg or, a couple of small islands, but large size countries, the top four, France, Italy, Spain, Belgium. Again, 3 years ago, these were the countries that were being praised for their socialized healthcare system. We would have to multiply our death rate per capita by 4 times to be close to what they have. Why aren't people talking about this? It's like, to me, this is a great opportunity to look at the perils of socialized healthcare versus a free enterprise system.
I have to tell you, Stephen, now is the best time to talk about not only socialized medicine, but also the free market. Deutsche Bank just came out over the weekend and said there is no such thing as the free market anymore.
How did you pronounce that?
Deutsche
Bank. You do it all properly?
Deutsche
That's what
Bank.
I do with my wife when we watch the new Pope. I go, I cannot believe Vaiallo. She goes, who? I say, oh, don't talk about Vaiallo. He's my guy, that Vaiallo. So Deutsche Bank, got it. Now I feel like an ass.
Well, how do you say Deutsche Bank? How do you say it?
I say Dutch.
Yeah.
And I know it's wrong, and I'm okay with it.
Well, this is wrong. Okay. So anyway, the German bank just came out this weekend and said that there is no such thing as a free market because of what the Fed has done. Mm-hmm. What the Fed has done is they're now the largest landowner in the world. They own all of our debt. They're the biggest treasury financiers now. They own more of our treasury bonds than anybody else. They are going to end up owning everything in the end. The market is not free anymore because there is no bottom. Right. There's no real pricing on anything except for the average person. Yeah. What they've done is they are using modern monetary theory, which is a socialist dream. And chapter 6 is a chapter that we almost didn't put in because I thought, this is kind of far out there because it would really take a real disruption to get there. But I tied it into technology, and I said, if you get a jobless problem and technology, along with modern monetary theory, you are a 1984 style state, a George Orwell state. Right. This is the utopia that the socialists are talking about. Modern monetary theory is this new idea that you don't have to have the money or even taxes to pay for anything. Just print the money. Yeah. Oh, that sounds brilliant. Along with the technology that will get in bed with the government to monitor people, which we are doing now, along with joblessness, you have a takeover of the capitalist free system. We've just experienced it. We're experiencing it right now. They're not even asking for votes on things in Congress anymore. They're going to an empty room. Those opposed, the ayes have it. Right. Nobody's in Congress. How are they voting on these bills?
It is a scary thought. I don't usually reference Orwell much. You know why? Because the more I read about him, I was like, I don't like him. He was a socialist who then kind of turned, and then he was like, the Catalina. I'm like, what about Catalina? You're talking about the place that was like a socialist, anarcho-socialist syndicalism for like 3 years, and then they immediately were wiped out. Don't like it. Think you're full of it. Not you, Orwell. But let me ask you this. You know a lot about the Fed, and you know a lot more about, like, you've focused on this quite a bit. Would it be justifiable at this point to say, okay, China, we're not paying you back until you sort this out? Is that even feasible? Or we're going to pay you less?
Not without war, but...
Yeah, but you know what? They're little.
Yeah.
In physical stature, not in population.
They don't have to build bombs. They could drop Chinese people from the sky and win.
Right. See, that's true. And the fact is, when you look at how much the government cares about their citizens, they would be the ones doing that. That's the unfortunate thing. I want to be really clear.
Absolutely would.
I'm pro-Chinese people having rights, so I'm anti-Chinese government. No, but go ahead.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And I will tell you, the strategy that China had to beat Russia in a war was take 1 million troops, march them across the border, and surrender. Yeah. Next day, 1 million troops, surrender. Next day, 1 million troops. By day 3, they've been overwhelmed just by people. Yeah.
And then they pull out the shivs that they've been hiding in their lower intestine. Surprise! Right? That would be a brilliant Trojan horse.
I think that. I think that they are. I think this has been as close to an active war that anyone else has ever perpetrated on, other countries in the world. I mean, they have killed more people than we lost in World War I, lost more people than the Vietnam War. I don't know. I think it sounds...
It'd be one thing if they said,
act of war, you've destroyed our economy.
Yeah. It'd be well, we've destroyed our economy with their help, to be fair. But I think it would be different if they said, like, our bad, no more wet markets. But instead, they're like, no. And they blame it on us. Like, if they took some responsibility, nothing is unforgivable. But these practices, when we talk about the wet markets that have been reopened. Sorry, go ahead.
Stephen, they're also wildly irresponsible, not just with the wet market, but what they're... all of the things that they denied, all of the information they withheld, and now they're going to countries like France, and France send them a bunch of PPEs and masks and everything else. Now France needs some. China is not only not returning those masks, they are selling them the masks and saying you can only buy them if you take our 5G.
Right.
That's insane.
I know.
That's a hostile actor.
It's like the IKEA return policy of global trade. It is all asshole that is unacceptable and have a broken bed frame to prove it. I don't know how the Swedes tie into all of this, but sooner or later, I want some Swede to answer
They will.
for IKEA. Let me ask you this, because I know a lot of people may not, like, obviously you were not a big Trump guy in the primaries. Neither was I. But at this point, when we're looking at Biden and you're looking at Donald Trump, how would you rate how the president has handled this and what you think his chances are going into 2020? Compared to Biden.
So I think
Biden. Sorry, Biden.
Biden is. I can't believe that Biden is actually going to be the guy. There's no way he's actually the guy. I think it's Governor Nipple Ring. There's no way that Biden doesn't know where he is.
No,
he can't be president.
No.
I think it's one of those things when he actually gets to the convention, everybody will be like, okay, come on, guys. I mean, he was a placeholder, right? There's somebody else. So I don't think he'll be the guy. If he is, he loses. Donald Trump, I think I wasn't a fan of his, but I've grown to be a fan of his. And then on top of it, the media has made me even more of a fan of his.
Right.
Because they've been so grossly unfair and just really sick. What they're doing now. I think he's done a really good job. I like the fact that he has pushed all of the power back to the states, that he hasn't taken, any of the opportunity to nationalize anything.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't like the spending, but I also don't like shutting down the economy, and it's constitutional to
I think that's
give
important to
money
note
back
because
to people you've taken it from.
As people who were both against the bailouts and the big stimulus bill, when we talk about 2009, where we started to know each other, that is very different from the government stepping in and saying, shut down your business. Hey, everybody else, do not go to that business or a church, or we will fine you. You prohibit people from making a living. Restitution there is not the same as simply paying out businesses that were going to go bankrupt anyway.
Exactly right.
And I think people need to understand that's never been incongruent with a conservative worldview at all.
No, the government is the responsible player on the failure of all of these businesses that will fail. All of the unemployment that we had over 3.5% is because of the federal government and their action.
Right.
And when they take away your right to be, even in some cases stupid. I want to be in New York City and I'm going to have my hot dog stand right there in front of the hospital. If they take away your right to do it, then they owe you the money that you could have earned.
Absolutely. It would be like if Bernanke took a steaming dump in a Cracker Barrel. If Bernanke took a steaming dump right in the middle of a Cracker Barrel table, right in the middle of the general store, and then walked away laughing. Like, no, Bernanke, you got to pay for this. You're the one who took the giant steaming crap right here. This wasn't us. No one's coming here because of your dump.
No, my knickknacks are dirty.
Yeah.
Where do I put the biscuits?
I don't know if that's an analogy that drives it home, but I tried.
I don't think you can say anything else about
I'll tell you what, I can say this because we're already 25 minutes in. The book is Arguing with Socialists. It's available wherever books are sold, of course, Amazon. If you have a Barnes & Noble cafe that happens to be open, go there, wear a mask, show Glenn Beck.
IKEA.
Oh, God.
Who knows?
Oh,
IKEA.
God. No. Did you translate
You have
this
to
to
put
Swedish?
it together yourself.
No. Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
You just
no.
get it. It just comes with a pen and Cliff Notes. And it's like, see if you can reconstitute this. All right. Well, listen, Glenn, I know you're busy. We are busy. I appreciate it. And I am going to, once you send this book, I am going to read it. I'm looking forward to it. Absolutely. Thank you, Glenn. All right. We have to go, everybody. We will see you tomorrow morning. Good morning, Mug Club. Oh!
P-O-G.